You want to grow your business, but you want to stay on purpose. And you can't always have both. You want to get bigger, but you want to be better. How do you serve more without losing track and touch with what you're trying to do? That's Purpose Under Pressure. That's what we're going to talk about next. Rick Hart of Jumpstart Sports is next on Purpose Under Pressure. The heat is on. Let's get cooking. This is Purpose Under Pressure. It's a podcast about people who swing their feet out of bed every morning, put them on the floor, and go at things on purpose. And then what happens and what they do when those storms rise, which they will, and try to knock you down. And that's what this show is all about. And folks, this is episode 53. That means this is the beginning of season 5. And I'll tell you, when this all began 50 or so interviews ago, things were in a lot of transition for me in my career, and a lot of things were looking different. And I wasn't sure whether this would work at all, but you put one foot in front of the other. Pretty soon, here we are, 50 episodes in and season 5. So thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting this. If you are out there, please don't forget to give us a like or a follow or subscribe. Tell your friend, tell your mom, tell somebody that this show is worth listening to. We appreciate it. And those folks out there that don't know this exists have a chance to find it if you'll like it. So please do that for me. I really do appreciate it. And the other thing I appreciate is my partners in this endeavor. It's always a thrill for me to let you know that Purpose Under Pressure is brought to you by Sandler by the Ruby Group. They serve sales professionals nationwide from their Akron and Columbus, Ohio locations. They have been partners with Purpose Under Pressure since the beginning, since day one, and they're here now. Why? Because they're on purpose. That's it. When I went to them and said, I want you to be a partner with this, it's because of how they run their business, what they believe, what they teach the people that work with them. They're on purpose and they're putting that into practice. And if you're running an organization that has a purpose at all and needs to get that out, I'll tell you right now, the call you want to make is to them. I don't care if you buy anything at all. It'll be worth the call. It'll be worth the conversation. You'll learn something. So do it. What do you have to lose? Check them out online at therubygroup.sandler.com. I can't wait to talk to you about and to introduce to you our guest for today. I met Rick Hart many, many years ago and watched what he was doing and believed in what he was doing and learned to believe in him very quickly. And I'm excited for you to meet him. He's the CEO and founder of Jumpstart Sports. And without me telling you what it is, we're going to get into that. But first, welcome Rick Hart to Purpose Under Pressure.
Well, Brian, thanks so much. It's great to see you, an old friend, and it's great to see you doing so well. And it's a pleasure to be here.
And it's a pleasure to have you on the show. A long time ago, I was out in a field watching my nephew play soccer, and he was kicking that ball around, and he was probably 3 or 5 or whatever years old. And I looked and I saw that and I said, wow, what's going on here? And it turned out to be Jumpstart Sports. And so I started reaching into it and looking in and trying to find out what was happening. And that's how I found you. And I'm just thrilled about the purpose that you shared with me then, and that I think you're going to share with folks now. What is Jumpstart Sports all about? What are you trying to do at Jumpstart Sports? What's your purpose?
Our mission is to benefit the lives of children through sports. The physical, psychological, emotional, and social development that they get by participating in sports. And it started out of, like many things, it evolved out of something bad that happened to me. I got very sick in 2000, and I spent 3 months of the year 2000 in and out of the hospital, and then a month kind of in cruise control until my wife said to me, "You're not happy. What do you want to do with your life?" And I said, this might sound crazy, but I want to do something with kids and sports. I had been in sports my entire life, and it was an important part of my development as a person, as a businessman, and as a father. And my at the time, very young sons were 4 and 2 when I got sick. Then I just decided, initially, so my wife is very supportive. She said to me, she was very supportive, and initially we thought about building a big sports complex. And when I looked into the economics of that, I decided it might not be the best way to invest the money that we had at the time. So instead, we had started programs. I was kind of the Pied Piper of youth sports in Hudson, Ohio, where we've lived for over 30 years now. So the program started and they did very well to begin with.
In
So
Hudson.
the rec director, I'm sorry?
In Hudson, it
Yeah,
started there. Yeah.
Yeah, in Hudson. And then the rec director in Hudson asked me to run the summer camp the following summer. So that was the birth of the model. I thought, wow, we don't need, with a facility, you've got a huge overhead, capital investment to begin with, capital improvements on an ongoing basis all the time. With this model, it was really the antithesis of that. And so we charged ahead, and I started to run a lot of the youth sports programs in Hudson in partnership with the school system, because the rec department was with the schools there. And we did very well. And then after a couple of years, another city asked me to work with them. And it's a very collaborative industry, the recreation industry, because each city recreation department is charged with the mission of really doing what we wanted to do, benefiting their children in their community. And so we grew somewhat quickly. And, fast forward, we started to grow even more so. And around 2010, 2009 or 10, I kind of had a decision to make. My brother-in-law, who was a very successful real estate developer, asked me, he said, really what you should be doing is franchising this thing. And I said to him, I looked into it. I met with consultants, and I just felt that we could not further the mission and the business at the same time. So we grew to other cities. We grew throughout Ohio, to Pittsburgh, Philly, some other areas, and then ran into some difficulties trying to run corporate-owned locations from afar.
Mm-hmm.
We would have young people working as area managers, and they did very well, but sometimes, they would just have a change in their life and want to move on. So, and then obviously through COVID, like many businesses, we struggled a little bit. And then a couple of years ago, my brother-in-law, David Roadhamel, again said to me, why don't you franchise? Why don't you look into it again? And he brought me to some other consultants who showed me how we could keep the mission, keep the business model that we have. We don't have to change everything and put it in a box. We just have to figure out a way to make our systems such that that we're able to replicate them more easily elsewhere. So that was in the June of 22 that we made the decision to franchise. We met with consultants and the franchise attorneys who helped us to put together. It took 10 months. So in February of 23, 21 years after I started, we started to franchise the business. So the first thing that we did was to convert several of the existing franchises, and then we've sold a few new ones since. We have Arizona up and running. We have Dallas is a new franchise that's about a month old. They're going through their learning process, and then New York City is scheduled to start in the fall of this year. But it's a fantastic model for franchise.
It is a great model, and it's amazing to see all these kids running around and playing and knowing that there's a business model behind it that is, it's not a nonprofit type of thing. It's a business model that's a franchise, and it's for on purpose. But there's also a mission. I want to go back to something you said and explore just a little bit more. When you were having trouble figuring out how to expand and how to grow, and I know you well enough to know, Rick, that if you're serving one person, you're missing out on the other 10, and that bothers you. So you wanted to grow and to spread the mission and to reach more kids. But you said that it was hard to do the mission and the business at the same time. which goes into the idea of purpose under pressure. Your mission won out. You decided, no, we're not going to grow the business. I'm going to stay on the mission. What was the difference there? Why was it so hard to keep the mission and to grow the business?
Well, that was really more of my misconception because we figured out a way to further the mission and further the business. And the key is that the people that we're accepting to become franchisees, they need to be somebody who first buys into our mission and is capitalized well enough to start the business. Because like with any business, you need to be able to, it typically does very well somewhat early on, but it takes, a few months to
a little bit
to get set up. It takes a while for people to learn the business. So they need to be able to survive during that period. So they need to have the proper financing, and they need to be able to make it happen. They have to be a people person, somebody that's able to relate well to potential partners, rec departments in cities we work with, people that relate well to parents, and people that relate well to children. But there are a lot of people out there. It's not rocket science. You don't need a PhD to run the soccer classes or to run the business that we run. And we have systems in place. Now, Dave and his wife, Cindy, who's our COO, the two of them have really taken the bull by the horns with the whole franchise business, because when you get into and that was another thing that I didn't want to do, when in 2010, I didn't want to get into the franchise business. So Dave and Cindy have really taken the lead with everything that needs to be done, getting the systems in place, the registration system to where it's state of the art, the playbook, the operations manual, which we call our playbook, so that it is turnkey and state of the art technology. And so they are doing all of that, and I'm focusing on helping each of the franchises grow their business. So for me, that's another thing that's fun. I love people. I love our mission. So I'm passionate about our mission. So when I talk to a potential city or school that might want to work with us, they're engaged by that mission and by my passion and by the passion that all of our people have.
Is it hard to find the right franchise? Have you turned down franchisees? Have you turned down opportunities because they didn't understand the mission? And how difficult is it to maintain your mission across these franchises? How hard have you found it to make sure that Jumpstart Sports is Jumpstart Sports in Arizona, just like it is here in Hudson?
Well, we're what's referred to as an emerging franchise. So yes is the answer to your question. When you're an emerging franchise, it's hard to turn down somebody that wants to buy in but isn't able to. And the three criteria that I just said, there are a lot of people that fit that criteria. The passion for the mission, the ability, it's not a huge financial investment. The franchise fee is $35,000, and the estimated additional costs are about another $35,000. But it's still, for some people, that's still a pretty difficult nut. And then they also have to have the business acumen to get the contracts in place, to manage the system, to recruit, hire, and train the staff that we use to sell them. So we have turned down, people with the opportunity, and that's difficult to do. And the process is slow and difficult. The Dallas franchise that I said that we signed about a month ago, we started talking to them in either September or October. So it takes, it's a significant decision for somebody. So it's a longer process to develop them.
What's the risk Rick, when it comes to franchising, there's other business owners and administration leaders and things that are listening now. What's the risk that you take when you allow yourself to franchise your business?
I suppose the risk is, making a mistake and having a wrong person running a franchise and then having to try and
mess up the brand.
But
yep.
Yeah, but we're still learning in the process. So.
One of the biggest problems we have as managers and leaders is sometimes we're not focusing on leading and we end up doing it for our sales team. How do we coach our people to help them figure out what self-limiting belief that they have that's holding them back from achieving the levels of success that they know they're capable of? Help them flush out what we call their own head trash, that thing that's holding them back. So work with your team, lead by example, watch your team achieve greater levels of success, and watch your team grow, and more importantly, watch your company and your business grow.
Okay. What are you most proud of, Rick, as you look back at your time starting in Hudson and now growing this organization? And I was working with you a little bit when you were trying to expand into different and the hurdles that you had to overcome there, and now franchising and that's its own nut to crack. What are you most proud of between then and now?
That's really easy for me because the three things I'm most proud of are my three children. And the other thing that makes me most proud is when I see a young person who started with us and evolved over the years into a good person. And we have a myriad of people who have done that, since we've been around for so long. In fact, we're going to be doing a little feature called Where Are They Now, which is going to just do a 5-minute snippet on, kids that started with us as 3-year-old soccer players. And now they're, one is a high school football coach. One is there are a lot of, management consultants and doctors and lawyers and also kids that were special needs who didn't have other opportunities to play sports. And our programs are inclusive. They're not designed specifically for special needs, but they're all inclusive. If there's a child with a special challenge that wants to come to our camp, as long as it doesn't pose a risk to any other children, we're happy to have them come. So just in general, I would say, when I was sick, I was literally laying in the hospital talking to God, and I was 40 years old at the time, and I said, please God, give me 40 more years, and what I'd really like to do in that time is to impact the lives of other people, because when your body starts to go through the process of dying, which my body was going through, you really, I connected with God and felt that that the Spirit was telling me, through that connection, I found the belief that all the worldly possessions and they really don't mean anything when you leave this world, and the people that you touch, the souls that you touch, are what does live on. So without getting too religious or sappy with you, I know you're a very religious person. And although I'm not Christian, I know that you and I do connect in a strong connection to into our beliefs of the Spirit.
And purpose and what we're trying to do through that. And so you've impacted these lives, which you wanted to do. You've expanded the business, which you wanted to do.
Yep.
What's next? What's the hurdle that's going to cause pressure and problems next for Jumpstart Sports that you can already see on the horizon that you're going to have to make sure you're ramped up and ready to clear?
Well, that's a great question, because really what I'd like to do is to get the franchise business to the point where it's a viable business that can take care of itself. And right now it's going to require a lot of work and some risk because we're putting our brand, our name, our future, on this. And I simply want to get it to the point where it is a sustainable entity, even without me, because none of my children want to. They've what I told them is find your passion, and they all did, and it was all in different fields than business or what we're doing. So my goal is to have this be a sustainable entity that lives long after I'm gone.
Yeah, because there's kids that are coming up next, right? And I know you well enough to know that you want to impact those too. Are you familiar, Rick, with the story? And I'm not going to share the whole thing, but of Upward Basketball and how it began? Do you know Upward
I
Basketball?
do know of Upward. I don't know how it started.
I won't share the whole story, and it's interesting enough if you want to look into it or if other people will listen to it. But there was a church, and they wanted to open their gym, and there wasn't enough room for all the kids. And so he found a sponsor to help that had some additional funds that wanted to invest in this and create this opportunity for more kids to play. And he went to the sponsor. So let's say, Rick, you had done that and generated the money, and you went to that sponsor and said, guess what? We served 600 people. In fact, there were 1,000 people waiting outside. Isn't that great? And the sponsor said, you mean there's 1,000 people that didn't get served? And he's like, yeah. And he said, you call that success? And that's where that whole nationwide thing took place. And I probably screwed the story up a little bit, but what impacted me was that we can't stop with one. If our mission is to serve, it's not good enough just to do it in our own backyard. We've got to offer that opportunity for everybody, and you're doing that. And I don't know if I'm proud of you for it, but I really respect that you haven't given up and you took this opportunity to take on, and people are going to impact that for many, maybe generations to come.
Well, I appreciate your saying that, because I talked about the young people who were 3-year-old soccer players who are now 25-year-old grown-ups at this point in time. Mm-hmm. And it's great to see that, but also, when I think about, thousands of kids in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh and in DC and now Dallas and other areas, being impacted by us, that gives me a lot of satisfaction just to know that it's happening. But also it's a real pleasure to see the impact on the lives of those franchisees, those people that that have taken a risk and are now turning it into a terrific business for their families and their children. There are a lot of people that we're impacting that I may not see or know, but it's great to know that they're out there.
Yeah. And I imagine those that went through the program and, like you said, now they're grown, they probably have kids, and they're going to have the Jumpstart logo on their T-shirt sleeve very soon. So that's got to be rewarding too. Rick, this audience that I have that is so faithful is made up of leaders and businesses and moms and dads. And if anyone wanted to reach out to you for any purpose, whether it be for franchising or even how do they get their kid on the league, what's the best way for them to find Jumpstart Sports and you?
Well, the website is jumpstartsports.com. If there's somebody that's interested in the franchising opportunity, there's a franchise tab on there. If you've got young children and you want to get them in sports, they're all listed on the website. My personal email address is rhart, RHART, at jumpstartsports.com. So feel free to email me there.
It's got to be so rewarding. And we'll wrap it up with this. But Rick, isn't it rewarding? And I'm thinking about franchisees now. I think I have it right. People who want to be a part of Jumpstart Sports.
Yes.
To own a business that is based on helping these kids get outside, do these things that they wouldn't have access to in the past, it's just got to be really rewarding. Is that the best word for it?
It's absolutely rewarding. And, a lot of times when and I think a purpose of your show, I mean, I know you and I know what you've told me about this show, but, any good businessman will tell you that every problem has an equal and opposite opportunity. That when something bad happens, something really good can come out of that. And I think that happened with youth sports in regard to COVID, because COVID, like with many industries, shut our industry down, but it really made people realize how much they want and need the social activity, the physical activity, And so, so the industry and our business have really done very well coming out of COVID. So it is rewarding.
It is rewarding. Folks, that's Rick Hart. And I was telling Rick a little bit before the show started that one of the things that I like about him is that he's very real. And I have this mentality of thought of business in my career that, you always hear people say, look, man, it's not personal. This is just business. That's usually when things are going wrong. It isn't personal. This is just business. And I think that's a crappy thing to say. I like to switch it around and say, man, this isn't just business. This is personal. And the reason I bring that up now is because I think that's what drives you, Rick. I think you're a very tough, demanding businessman that wants things done the right way and for profit. And I love that. But I don't think you'll give one bit back when it comes to mission and what matters to you as a person. So I'm going to tell everybody out there listening that you're one of the good ones. And I want to thank you for doing that. And I want to thank you for being a part of our show.
Thanks so much, Brian. And I can say the same about you.
No, I appreciate it. I was fishing for that. That's what I was hoping for. It's all about me, right? Folks, that's Rick Hart. That is Jumpstart Sports. And whenever you see kids running around with a uniform on and kicking a ball around and loving life, I'm kind of hoping that it's a Jumpstart Sports organization they're seeing. And if it's not, as long as they're out there, that's great. But if you're looking for ways to get your kids involved or get your community involved to get the kids involved, consider opening up a franchise anywhere in this country, I believe, with Jumpstart Sports. So thank you to Rick Hart, the CEO and founder of Jumpstart Sports. He was our guest on today's episode of Purpose Under Pressure, brought to you by Sandler by the Ruby Group. Sellers are under pressure to perform, and Sandler helps you to succeed on purpose. You're going to find all the past episodes, all 4 seasons, and now into season 5 of Purpose Under Pressure at brianmediastrategies.com/podcast. That's my website. You can also find it on YouTube or wherever you stream your favorite shows. We do this every week, and we will see you next time on Purpose.